the question we are dealing with is less of political. It's actually more of moral. It's a moral question.
A handshake in the name of a dialogue.
Yes, a dialogue. You call it dialogue, you call it anything else. But this is going to bed with bad manners. Possibly the traps sort of exploded before Raila crossed over. I don't know. But I feel this is not good. Why? Because the president himself said he's not going to treat his deputy the way he was treated.
And you're just in time for Richard Mwenja exclusive. My name is Richard Mwenja, and it is only on this show that you get the entire national supply of wisdom on matters political and governance analysis. And who better to help me bring such conversations home than this think tank, former minister and one-time Kenya's ambassador. I'm talking about the proud son of Cherangani constituency, Kipruto Arab Kirwa.
Yeah, it's my pleasure, Richard.
How are you doing today, sir?
Very well, although Karen is a bit cold.
It is very cold.
Yeah.
And I understand it is your tradition. Anytime you have visitors around, they are received by traditional dancers, a red carpet, a bouquet of flowers from your grandchildren. Why did you lower the bar when it comes to me?
No,
I haven't received any of that.
No, we'll organize. After this, you don't know, the ceremony is so elaborate that you'll be shocked. There'll be better things to come just around the corner. Yeah.
Your family will come bearing gifts and tidings.
Part of my family is in Kitale. So whoever is here will be able to receive you and give you a nice send-off.
Sure.
Yeah.
Very well. Following the misconduct of the National Police during their effort to calm down the mass protest that we witnessed a fortnight ago, we have seen the resignation of Inspector General of Police Japhet Koome. But I want to understand from your optic, do you think that this is just about state officers wanting to run away from accountability? Because some believe it is not good enough to resign. We need to hold you accountable for what happened. The killings we saw, the hard force that was used on peaceful demonstrators. Do you believe there's more that can be done beyond resignation of IG Koome?
Well, there is a lot of things. One would have expected one or two policemen to have been taken to court and either proven or not proven to have gotten involved in the killings. At least we should have seen people in court. Number two, it is also good to understand the architecture of the power arrangement and the position of the IG. You know, IG is one of the 4 officers who report directly to the president. And therefore, they are not under the command of the minister. They themselves, the IG, is somebody involved directly in terms of operational issues. The minister does not come in, even the president does not come in. But because the government operates in sync, as you would expect, you would expect that whatever the IG does, the president knows. Whatever the IG does, the Minister for Interior knows. And we are made to understand some of the orders were done at cross purposes. You find a junior officer almost commanding a senior officer in the system. And of course, at times, some ministers may get excited and start overreaching themselves by doing what is not provided for in the law. Because what we know, the minister is in charge of policy and direction to all the operatives within that particular department of internal security.
Sure.
Yeah.
That is not the only, sort of reorganization we have seen within government, the resignation of IG Koome. The other day we saw President William Ruto dissolve his cabinet. And from my optic, I understand he's doing that with the best interest of Kenyans at heart. But let me ask you, you served under Kibaki One's cabinet, and you too were part of those who were dissolved when he dissolved his cabinet.
Yeah.
Let me understand this. Do you think there's always a bigger impact, a positive impact that comes with the president making such a huge decision?
Well, it depends on the issue. You know, in 2005, I remember, I think it should have been around November, it was clear that the cabinet was divided because a number of our colleagues had gone to ODM. By then, ODM was not a political party. It was a movement because we chose 2 symbols. Those of us in PNU, who remained in PNU subsequent, we chose banana. And our friends who decided to go the other way, they chose the orange. And of course, the country went almost orange, about 57 against 43 that the banana got. And therefore, the referendum was lost by those who are proponents of the government. And in his wisdom, the president realized the country is now divided because a large section of his cabinet has gone a different route. So he decided to dissolve the cabinet, except the position of the of the vice president at that time. So the rest of us, we waited, and we didn't wait for long, but it sounded like it was 3 years. We waited for 11 days for us to be reappointed. And of course, when the reappointment was done, those who had gone orange, they were excluded from the cabinet. Those who had voted banana were retained in the cabinet with a few other changes.
Sure.
Because other parties within the new coalition arrangement were making their own stakes that we need also to be accommodated because so many have left. So we need to have a chance to get more members from members of parliament to be elevated to be ministers. And that's what happened. And of course, the cabinet expanded to almost about 40 ministers.
Thereafter.
Yeah, thereafter.
Let's stick to this particular front.
Yeah.
And I want to understand, unlike many other cabinets that we've seen in the past,
Yes.
During tenures of different presidents,
Yeah.
Ruto's premier cabinet is one that was so much vilified, so much hated, and there was so much resentment from the citizen, from the taxpayers. I want to understand, why did this cabinet come off as one that was not really liked by majority of the taxpayers? What made them earn that much hard stance from the taxpayers?
Well, I think partly, let me put it this way. Let me complete the story.
Sure.
Now, the cabinet that President Ruto dissolved the other day is not dissolved because of its own internal challenges. It is dissolved because of the public outrage against it. And public outrage arose out of their behavior. And therefore, the question we are dealing with is less of political. It's actually more of moral. It's a moral question. A moral question in the sense that the accusations that you've seen even Gen Z accuse the current regime is 1, display of arrogance, 2, theft, pilferage, and wastage of resources. Display of arrogance in the sense that the one that was so clearing is that of Kipchumba Murkomen, telling the young man that we don't give jobs here. And of course, you remember the t-shirt that was saying hatupeani kazi, tunapeana kinyezi ya punda na mawe.
In the name of subsidized fertilizer.
Instead, in the name of subsidized fertilizer. So that is display of arrogance. Now, there is also display of opulence that was shown by many other people associated with the regime. Those are points people are picking. There is also the issue, and at the beginning of time, that most of the cases affecting people who were seen aligned to William Ruto, most of those cases were dropped. I think practically all of them.
Acquittals?
Acquittals in ways that there is not enough
Sufficient evidence.
There's not enough, evidence, and therefore the case is thrown out. And Nurdin Haji, who was DPP at that time, made a confession that should have mitigated him resigning from that particular office. What did he say? He said he was influenced to make some of the prosecutions while the information available was not sufficient to sustain a case in a court of law. So what is he saying? Perhaps the new regime is now influencing him now to do the reverse of what he was doing previously. So that is something that was telling. And about 15 cases were withdrawn or dropped altogether.
Back to back.
Yeah, including that of C.S. Rotich, former C.S. Rotich, who is now
fiscal policy advisor.
Yeah, fiscal policy advisor in the Ministry of Finance. So look at that. And this is being picked by our young people. So I want to repeat, this is more of a moral issue than a political issue. Moral for the reasons I've just advanced. That you are dropping cases today and you are preferring cases against new people who are seen not to be aligned to your side. Some of the chairmen of the institutions dealing with issues of finance had cases with those institutions amounting to about 17 billion. And now they are now at the seat of the institutions that they had accused them of trying to pilferage their money from those institutions. So again, it's a moral issue. It's not a political issue. And that is really what worries me a lot. And if it was political, it could have been resolved by talking to Raila. But now they are talking to Raila on a moral issue. And I don't see how much of the moral values is Raila going to bring on board. Because we are made to understand they are fomenting possibility of forming another grand coalition government.
Another handshake, but with a different
or you
name?
Can call it broad-based handshake, grand coalition, government of national unity. That is in the offing. Yeah, you know, my political parameter is telling me that is what is happening.
It is gauging the air.
It's gauging the air. And I'm worried for Rigathi. They may want to do away with him.
But do you think Gen Zs can sit back and see another sort of political interest being advanced in the name of forming a grand coalition government?
That's my worry. That's my worry. And you know what I'm worried about is that there's tools they are using. You know, the little engineering I did informs me that you must use the right tools to deal with the machine. If you are not using the right tools, the machine is likely to malfunction. So they are applying political solution to a moral issue. In fact, if you look at GNC, most of those issues, even when they say we want a minister like this, they are not talking of Richard or Kirwa. They are talking of the values, the value system they believe in. Yeah, including they say we want somebody between to either 25 and below 60.
And the history of the individual.
And history of the individual. Whether he has a case in a court of law, whether there is a corruption pending issue, they have listed all those things.
That takes me to my next area of concern.
Yes.
Would you then credit the underperformance of Ruto's premier cabinet to the situation whereby we saw it was sort of more of loyalty being rewarded rather than credentials or at least competency preceding the former?
It was some kind of mixed grill. Some of the ministers, even if I was given a chance to appoint, I would still have appointed them because they are people who have credentials. They may not have credentials in the tokens they were given, but they still have credentials nonetheless. These are qualified Kenyans who have a lot of experience. But in some areas, it was sort of, that's why I'm saying mixed grill. There were people who never fitted the bill, but they were brought in because of regional balance, making some other political leaders happy, because it was like a coalition government in a broader way. And therefore, we go to that particular level where the machine was not having rhythmical movement. Some of the individuals were left behind. You see, if you mix A students and E students in the same class, you have to balance in a way that the A students don't overspeed and leave the other ones. And even the slow learners, you allow them to catch up with the rest of the class.
Building synergy.
Building synergy. Then the second problem that I think we need to assist our president is the issue that he never allowed the ministers to be independent. He never allowed ministers to gel with their officers. He still had direct link to every ministry. in a way that even the minister at times has to catch up with the information system, because the president will have gotten information directly from the ministry, and that protocol that has always been used in the public service was sort of broken. And you know, when you break protocol, you create uncertainty on the side of the leaders. So that is another problem, that even if he was to bring a cabinet of angels and behave in the same old style he has done for the last 18 months, there will be no performance.
Rightly put.
Yeah.
Moving on swiftly, let's now talk about now the way forward for the country. And when it now comes to the cabinet that is going to form next, as a seasoned public scholar, and you've been there as a former minister, you are now a renowned think tank out here, what should be the new face of Ruto's next cabinet? What should we see as taxpayers? What should be reflected in his new cabinet?
Without exception, he should go through the old stock that he has. Out of the 21, is lucky if Kenyans will accept 7 of them. Then get new people whose credentials are beyond reproach, new people who are able to fit the bill, but also who have the courage to tell him no. Because part of the problem, and I saw it when I used to work with him, whenever there was a difficult situation, they would call me and say, the boss seems to have a problem about 1, 2, 3, and you know he will listen to you. So I did that, and until I realized his body language was almost rejecting my advances in terms of trying to tell him
advice
that was unsolicited and unpaid for. So, but I was doing it because I believed that it was this part of nation building. If you give me advice that will assist me to improve on my leadership situation, so be it.
Investing in the future.
I'm investing in the future because I believe I'm in Kenya beyond my life, my lifetime.
Sure.
So that is a combination, but something I would want the president to refrain is to be seen he has gone to bed with Raila.
Okay.
That will be a Waterloo for him.
It would compromise much on his side?
It will compromise much of it, and there will be so much outrage, because these young people are not against Kenya Kwanza per se. They are against bad manners, and therefore, they're against theft. And if you bring bad manners from ODM or from Azimio and you put in Kenya Kwanza, it doesn't change to be good manners. It's still bad manners.
The two of you now become the enemy of the people.
Yeah, the two. And when the two of them become the enemy of the people, it will be impossible to stem avalanche of outrage from young people who are not happy with the situation. Remember, they have said they want to cap it at 60. Those of us who are above 60 must realize before even you do anything, you are enemy of the people. Because they suspect your past is not as clean as you claim. Let alone Raila, who is 10 years, 12 years older than me. So this is, Raila has played magical events in the past. This one, I'm telling him, it is going to be his last battle. And it's going to be disastrous.
So this time round, much as people credit him to be the political mutator of this time, he can recalibrate himself. Do you think now the next mutation could be a Herculean task for him if he doesn't go with, around it tactfully?
You know, at times mutations, they move up to a time where there is what they call the fission force that creates a lot of heat, and you burn and you dissipate.
Saturation point.
Yes, this may be the situation for him. You know, Raila can advise from outside, but he should not just think that he's going again to be part of this government. Let President Ruto have his own team, the team he trusts, then he transits the next 3 years. After that, we can go for an election. He may win, he may not win.
Sure.
But for me, you know why I say that, Richard? Since the advent of the second multipartyism, there is no time the opposition has stayed intact for 5 years, except between 2013, 2018. Let us go through the events slowly. In 1992, we had the second multi-party elections, where President Moi won is a paltry 32%. And he had a house in terms of parliamentary numbers that were not very strong. And the three serious formations, that Ford Ashley, Ford Kenya and DP,
Sure.
were not willing to have any coalition government. And even the constitution at that particular time did not allow, because it was very clear that the president shall form the cabinet from among members of parliament of the party that sponsored him. So that cabinet was going to be KANU. You could not have anybody outside KANU because the constitution did not provide for that kind of formation.
Provision.
So what did he do? He started poaching members of parliament. I remember there was somebody called Njuguna Njoroge from Muranga. He defected, but he lost the election. Apili Wawire from Kakamega, he defected, he won the election, which is one of the most expensive by-elections of the time. There were other people like the Honorable Tom Obondo from Nyanza and many others who defected.
There was a mass exodus.
Mass exodus, but it was impossible to almost win the numbers the president expected. So that was onslaught on democracy, onslaught on opposition, and onslaught on separation of powers between those in power and those in the opposition. 1997, and on the eve of that election, we did an amendment to the constitution in parliament, which sounded a very, very honest thing. And President Moi was very good. He changes the law before he applies that law. It was not like the situation today. You apply the law, then you change it to fit whatever you have already decided. So we amended the constitution to provide for in a certain section that the president shall form the cabinet from among members of parliament. So now it was not the party that sponsored him. So fast forward, we do 97 elections. The President Moi wins. He has a sizable number of members of parliament. Then he brings in Raila from NDP to form what they were calling cooperation at the beginning. That cooperation morphed into a coalition where Raila became Secretary General of KANU. That is onslaught on democracy. You cannot call it anything else. Now, fast forward, the election of 2002. It was a huge win for the opposition. We won the government and we moved in with many members of parliament. We did not need anything. But what happened, because of that bad manners that had already been infused into the system politic, is the referendum that separated us.
2005.
So that was another onslaught on democracy. 2007, you know what happened. After the election, there was the grand coalition
Government,
where opposition comes to government. That is another onslaught on democracy.
Sure.
Now, move now from 2007, 2013 up to 2018 is a period where there was semblance of respect between opposition
and the presidency.
And Then, after 2018 elections, you know what happened, handshake. After 2022 elections, the second form of broad-based government. You've heard President Ruto say twice, I'm going to form a broad-based government by consulting with political formations, individuals, either in public or in private.
A handshake in the name of a dialogue.
Yes, a dialogue. You call it dialogue, you call it anything else. But this is going to bed with bad manners.
A handshake, but one that wears a tie.
Yeah, handshake with a tie and also going to bed with bad manners. Yeah, you have bad manners, we do bad manners in bed.
I am curious to understand.
Yeah.
Now that we saw the premier cabinet of President Ruto was majorly composed of individuals from two main ethnic communities in Kenya, And let me mention the ethnic community from Mount Kenya.
Yeah.
Do you think this will compromise the vote basket for President Ruto in 2027? Because some in Mount Kenya believe if we had 7 CSS, then the new cabinet must also have 7 of our own children. How do you think the president should play around such politics already playing shape in the backyards?
In fact, I would have, if we wanted to support the president, and this is something I'm speaking honestly about, it should not have the face of other political formations. It should be the same team that formed the Kenya Kwanza. Those of us who are in the opposition, bad luck. We stay out for the next 3 years. Now, what does he do? He plays around and he does a lot of consultation, even with those individuals themselves. So that at the end of the day, he has a cabinet that he trusts will perform. He has a cabinet that he knows reflects the diversity of this country. He also has a cabinet that does not rock his backyard in terms of the Mount Kenya region. But my worry, given what I said earlier, I think President Ruto is trying to part ways with Mount Kenya region without saying so. So he may have even 7 ministers from the Mount Kenya region, but there will not be people representing the wishes of the people on the ground.
Very sure enough.
Yes, and I'm worried he may have 5. Yeah, some of them will not come back. And even some of them, even if they change and they go somebody from Mount Kenya, they may be different faces than the ones you expected. He may want to bring some big names, just to placate those people in that particular sector. Yeah, I don't know. Possibly some of the business magnates, bring them and allow them to run some of those issues. But the advice I would give him, there are people who can run ministries very well, but they don't have even a single business entity in to their name. But there are also many people who have big institutions in terms of private investment, but they cannot run even a simple ministry.
Sure enough.
Yeah.
I mean, now for those who might not be reabsorbed back into the cabinet, do you foresee a situation whereby there are those who will try so hard to go down with the president because they will feel, I gave in my electoral position to become a CS in your government, now I'm out of office, then if I'm going down, I have to go down with you. Do you think we still have politicians or leaders in this country who can go at any length to revenge or at least to settle scores politically?
Well, there are many, and I've never seen a political formation that remains intact for 10 years. It's almost every election cycle has new formations. Some people who are on this side crossover, and some from that side crossover. But they maintain dynamism, because the way I see, this country is divided into 2. There are those who believe in certain way of doing things, and those who believe in a separate way of doing things. And therefore, the way I see opposition and the government of the day, they are almost at par, almost 50-50. That's why if you are to check the last 4 elections, the difference is maybe, I think one of them was about 14,000 votes, and another one, like this one, 200,000 votes. This is really not a significant change, unlike the one of Kibaki, 66%. So I still believe we are still looking for each other. It's not bad. Let people cross over until we come out with serious policy direction that I believe in this set of things and I believe in that set of things.
Good.
And GNC, they have tried to do that for us. And even President Ruto in his campaign, he tried to make it issue-based campaigns. The only where I fault him, he made it class competition, where he was talking of the hustlers and the dynasties. He himself now is a dynasty. Is he going to condemn the hustlers or the dynasties in the next election? Because, definition of dynasty is not very clear. Dynasty in the old medieval way, in the old English way, is that my son becomes your MP after me, and his son becomes your MP after him. But in this situation in Kenya, you can rise from nowhere, and your father is not to blame for giving birth to you. So Kenyatta Jomo gave birth to Uhuru. Uhuru became our president. You cannot consider that as a dynasty.
So just because you are born by the lakeside in Victoria, you don't have to end up a fisherman. It could happen in Kenya. Anyone's child could amount to something bigger than many thought.
That's it. And we should allow that kind of freedom. And also don't condemn our children. Because if you are a pastor and your son wants to be a pastor, why should you tell him don't be a pastor?
Be a pilot.
Yeah, be a pilot or be an engineer or be a journalist. A producer.
Sure enough. During this intervening period before the president now appoints his new cabinet, he definitely is a man at the top, a man who is lonely at the top. What danger lies should this be a prolonged situation whereby the president is there seated alone, no cabinet being formed in the near future? What could unravel?
Well, I don't see much danger, but I also don't think the president will take more than 15 days. If I was to give advice, which I often do without pay, I would suggest that he waits for at least minimum 10 days, maximum 20 days. So in between, he can form. Because he cannot say he has consulted unless he had a list under the table before he fired the other ones. Otherwise, he should really consult and also check the pulse rate of the nation.
Read public mood and all.
Read public mood, and perhaps he can make an address and request Kenyans to give him a week so that he can release 4 names, the way they did with the 2013. Was it 2013 or 2018? I can't remember. One of the release some names gradually, so that he has the public mood. Because my worry, Richard, is that should he release all these names, and people say no, that will be the end of this regime.
It could be dead on arrival.
It will be dead on arrival. So my worry is no longer about President Ruto. My worry is about the transition. We must allow democracy to prevail. Whether somebody is seen to be legitimate or has lost legitimacy because of lack of trust, we should pamper that baby until it crosses the line. That is the next election. Because unlike the past, the president cannot dissolve parliament today.
Sure enough.
Unless you tell him to resign and his deputy resigns, so that we have a by-election at the top. Otherwise, there is no other constitutional way. And if we go extra constitution, it will be impossible to bring back the government to line.
Lastly, sir, for Rigathi Gachagua, Vice President of Kenya, and Prime Cabinet CS Musalia Mudavadi, who survived this cabinet dissolution, what would be your advice to them? Because I am meant to understand the two individuals might be worried men. Should their hearts quake seeing all this reorganization within government? What should be your nuggets of wisdom to them henceforth?
I feel Musalia is safer. And Rigathi is constitutionally entrenched. So the two, they should not be worried. Why am I saying Musalia is safer?
Tell me.
If Raila will be playing a role in the next arrangement, he does not have problems with Musalia. But Rigathi burned bridges with Raila, calling him all manner of things, putting CCTV traps in every corner of State House, only for Raila to be ahead of him. So, but I sympathize with him. I feel he's not been given justice. Yes.
Were they faulty traps?
Possibly the traps sort of exploded before Raila crossed over. I don't know. But I feel this is not good. Why? Because the president himself said he's not going to treat his deputy the way he was treated, which was also against the protocol. You cannot insult your predecessor in front of all these international leaders. It was a sign of naivety. And I'm sure everybody left feeling Kenya is headed in the wrong direction. Those presidents are not, they are not naive. They can easily see there is a problem here.
With forethought and thoroughness. They can see it.
I remember I met Jakaya Kikwete in Rome when I was Minister for Agriculture. He himself was Minister for Foreign Affairs, but I think he was trying to interact with international leaders in preparation for his presidency. So he told me, is your coalition going to last? I told him yes. He said no, if you had formed one political party, I would believe that it was going to last. That's when now we were in NAC. I did not agree with him, but I did not want to show disrespect for a colleague. By then he was my colleague, he was not my president. So, but later on I realized he was right, I was wrong. Because I believed we were going to form the next government and we'll retire and leave other people to take over under NAC. But NAC was never to be. I remember I also talked to a colleague of mine from Mount Kenya region. There was a building they were selling around, not Adams Arcade, Hurlingham. The owner was selling for 19 million. That building, we had used it as Mwenge House. So I told a colleague, this thing is being sold for 19 million. Why don't we group ourselves, 7 of us, and we raise the money and we buy it. Then when we get money, we build it into our headquarters. You know, he laughed so loudly on phone and he told me, you are still in NAC. And it was less than a year since we formed the government. Are you still in NAC? Forget about it. Tulitoka huko.
The bus has left the station.
Yeah. But also I was naive, he was right. In 2005, there was no NAC.
Uliachwa kwa mataa.
Kwa mataa.
Very well.
At times I think I'm too naive.
So in conclusion, Rigathi Gachagua, the Deputy President of Kenya, should treat his boss with contempt henceforth, looking at the developments within Kenya's political landscape.
I'm sure in the next 2 weeks, what I'm saying will come to pass. And Gachagua had better be wary because even issues of impeachment may be one of the options to deal with him. And it worries me because Gachagua has garnered a constituency that he didn't have before he was made deputy president or running mate at that time.
Sure enough.
Yeah.
Well, that point by the think tank himself, former Minister Ruto takes us to the wrap of today's conversation. We've been discussing matters to do with the reorganization within President Ruto's government. Top issue that we've discussed about being the resignation of Inspector General of Police, Japhet Koome, and also the dissolution of President Ruto's premier cabinet. What does that mean for the country, and how should he forge ahead even when he tries to reorganize his cabinet one more time? You've heard him from the think tank himself. Wait to see whether the government will tap into nuggets of wisdom. As to whether they'll change for the better, it remains to be seen. Stay glued for our next edition, because on it will be the new segment, Heroes Corner with Kipruto Arab Kirwa. We'll be delving into personalities that we feel this country owes a debt of gratitude, and who better to bring such insights to you than the real historian in the room, Kipruto Arab Kirwa. Asante sana for hosting us at your beautiful home.
Asante, it's my pleasure. Yes, and don't be in a hurry to leave. Yeah.
Kuna chai mahali?
Tunaweza tafuta.
Hey,
yeah.
Na mbuzi kidogo.
Yeah, hata nyama. Chochote.
Well, until next time, do enjoy the rest of your viewing. Thank you so much to my entire production team. And today, my producer being Jadiel Kabiro, and my very talented videographer, proud son of Kilgoris, Ryan Canchuel. Until we meet next, do enjoy your day.